Hey kid, word on the street is you like God's creatures. Now I gotta ask you talking the great ones or the small ones? Oh, yous likes all God's creatures. Well, we can work with that.
Welcome back to Deep in Bear Country, a Berenstain Bearcast. I am your host, Phil Gonzalez, and I apologize right off the top just for that horrible intro I did. I couldn't think of anything else to do. This week's book is The Berenstain Bears, All God's Creatures, and like every other book we've done about all God's creatures, it's about just a bunch of animals. They just go out and they just look at a bunch of animals. Like the end. I could have ended this show at 1 minute exactly, and you would have gotten the gist. This is another one of our Worthy Kids books, the Hatchet Book Group, books about religion, kind of, moral lessons, vaguely hardback, like hard books, like board books, like got that going on. This is the next one in the series. We did Love One Another last time. We are fresh into the God portion of these board books. And this is Berenstain Bears, All God's Creatures from 2016. And it's, yeah, they get out of the house and they look at animals. I don't even have much to discuss as far as like the theology of this book. I mean, do you like animals? I mean, I guess that's it. Like you like animals. But what does the Bible really have to say about animals? Quite a bit, actually, but not in the way that this book is talking about animals. I mean, we know from the book of Genesis that God created the animals along with the rest of like everything, and that he saw them as good, and that he gave human beings dominion over them. That's Genesis 1 chapter verses 24 through 28. We also know from Genesis that he created the animals like kind of twice, because the first relating of the creation of the world, right off the bat, he creates them on like the whateverth day. But then in the second telling of the story, he creates them as like companions to man or something. Like he creates the first human and then he parades the animals by the human. And that is what prompts God to create woman, because like none of these animals are a good enough companion for the just generic human creature he created. Which is weird. I mean, he clearly created like companion animals for each other. It just didn't like. Did he think that humans were the one animal that wasn't going to require like a companion? Like, oh, I'll just give it a donkey and it'll be fine. I don't know. But the gist. Okay, so and throughout Genesis, he is saying like, you know, humans, you kind of have you get to do whatever you want with all these animals. Then in Noah's Ark in Genesis, he has the one human family save all the animals. And then there's like the dove and the raven or whatever that show that dry land is out there. But you see animals exclusively doing work for people. I mean, and we encounter, however, anachronistically in Genesis, we encounter camels. So they're considered beasts of, they're beasts of burden. We have references to a lot of animals. In Proverbs, it says that a righteous person cares for the needs of animals, Proverbs 12:10. And then also in the Old Testament, we get a lot of references to animal sacrifice, whether they be a kid, like a goat kid, or a sparrow. There's like a whole part where they tell you to like kill a sparrow. Which is ironic because at other times you hear that God cares about the sparrows. And he gets sad when they die. So I don't know. Sometimes he wants them as a sacrifice. But in the New Testament, Jesus basically says, you don't have to do animal sacrifices anymore. That's why I died. So I'm the big sacrifice. Animals are also symbolic. With the lion and the lamb and all that stuff. We've got, we talked about Proverbs. It also says in Exodus that on Shabbat, you're supposed to let all the animals rest as well as the people. Everyone gets to rest because on the seventh day, God rested, but then so did the rest of the world. And in biblical prophecy, we see them say that predators and prey will hang out together and be good friends. That's in Isaiah chapter 11. So animals are all throughout the Bible. One thing the Bible doesn't talk about, though, is how cute they are. It just doesn't. It doesn't go into much about the cuteness or the adorability. It doesn't talk a lot about different kinds of butterflies either. Here we go. Jesus says in Matthew 10:29, "Are not two sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside of your Father's care." So he's like, they're pretty common birds, but God still cares when one of them dies. Like that's a big deal. In the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 6:26, he says, "Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they?" So he's like, you know what? God cares about you more than he cares about these animals, and he cares for a lot. Like he cares for them a lot. Jesus also refers to people as sheep, which is an insult, but whatever, that they're also an animal. And of course, then we talked about how there's no more animal sacrifices needed. In fact, one of the reasons Jesus overturned the tables at the temple is because some of them were changing money and some of them were selling animals. That's in Matthew chapter 21. So there's a lot of animal talk in the Bible, but they don't just hang out and look at animals a lot. But you do have this sense that as stewards of the earth, we are meant to take care of things. Now, that goes back and forth throughout the Bible, as I said, but I guess it makes sense that you'd put together a few children's books about animals. If you believe that they were all created, by God and that they are meant to be cared for, then, go knock yourself out, write a book about it. That's what this book is. It's Mike Berenstain not only talking about animals, which we know he loves, but drawing animals. So the story is that here's the story. It's really straightforward. We got the cubs, brother, sister, and honey. Our very active honey, who we love. We love active honey. They're in Mama's garden. Papa's hoeing some dirt. I thought for a second she was sticking roses onto a bush. She is cutting roses from the bush and potting them. They're looking at butterflies, and we have 3 butterflies. Not just little cartoon butterflies, but very detailed, very specifically colored butterflies. And they are labeled the tiger swallowtail, an orange sulfur, and a monarch. And these are butterflies that looking up, I see that I guess people sometimes confuse them when they are in their larval stage. People who are trying to save the monarchs. Just remember that if you end up not saving the monarchs, but you end up saving the tiger swallowtails or the orange sulfurs, it's just as worthy. Like you should be kind to the butterflies. I know without their wings, they are a pretty creepy looking insect, but they have wings and they are colorful wings. And if there's one thing we learned from Richard Attenborough, or is it David Attenborough? From David Attenborough, it's that butterflies have colors that we can't see. That's right. They have special colors that only exist in the infrared spectrum, I think. So, they're more colorful than even Mr. Smart Guy. So Honey is chasing the butterflies around, and Sister's like, look how much Honey likes the butterflies, or loves the butterflies. And Mom is like, well, we should love all God's creatures. And she smiles at her, and I love the next line. I love Brother's line, because she's like, we should love all God's creatures. And Brother says, what about birds? And I'm like, brother, like it just seems a very strange impulse. Like I could see if he was like, wait a minute, what about boll weevils? What about stink bugs? What about, I don't know, poisonous snakes? But he's like, no, what about birds, Mama? Gotcha there. What about those filthy rats in the sky? The birds are at the bird feeder. A bird, says Honey. A chirp, chirp, tweet, and they're looking at a blue jay, a woodpecker, and a nuthatch. We have a bird feeder right outside our window, and we get a lot of brown birds. We get some red birds. We get some yellow birds and some woodpeckers. And Alana even has an app on her phone where she just presses a button and it listens and it will tell you all the bird songs that it can hear and identify the birds for you and give you pictures of them. It's pretty cool. If you're into that kind of thing, which Alana definitely is. But it's a good reason to go outside. It's like Pokemon Go, but for other people. So Mom was like, would you like to see some more of God's creatures? And I'm like, how about some of the devil's creatures? I don't know why. I think it'd be interesting if there was like a Balrog or something. So they decide to go for a nature walk, which the bear family does. In fact, I believe the last book we read about animals was them going on a nature walk. They see a rabbit and a rabbit's babies. Hop, 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 says Honey. They see a squirrel that waves its tail at them, and they all wave back. Don't worry, we're about to get to a very upsetting moment. They see the raccoons. I don't know if you remember. Like, I think it was the first year this podcast existed, and I did one of the Halloween books, and I had the amazing Erin Shepherd on, and she told a bunch of stories about people in her neighborhood, and somehow we got on the topic of raccoons, and she says she couldn't stand, not that she couldn't stand. She had troubles with raccoons because of their little man hands. And that comes up in this book. Mama's like, looks like the raccoons are wearing masks. And sister says it makes them look sort of sneaky, which, fair. And then brother says, why do they dip their food in the water? And Papa says, to help them swallow it. But you see the raccoons manipulating apples with their creepy little hands. And then we move on to an even creepier little animal, which is the possum. We see a possum hanging from a branch by her tail, with the babies on her back, as possums do. I believe there's something about the possum. Do possums really hang by their tail? And the answer is actually no. They may do it just to gain balance on a branch, but the idea of them sleeping while hanging upside down by their tail is not true. It's a myth. It's just an old wives' tale. It's something you see in cartoons. Possums don't have the necessary muscle structure to suspend themselves from their tails. So sorry, Mike, that is bunk. It is bullpucky. It is no good. Bad animal fact. But they do carry their babies on their backs. But also the picture of this possum looks really cute. And possums, while cute, are cute in a like, that's a demon kind of way. Maybe they're the devil's creatures. We'll never know. So then they go to the water. Many creatures live around the pond, says Mama, like these water birds. There's a duck, there's a goose, and a heron. And sister says, look, that one bird blends right in. You can barely see him. And Papa says, well, that makes it easier for him to catch food. And I wonder if that's why Papa is the same color as the wood he uses, so he can hide in the woods and catch food. So then there's tadpoles, which apparently the kids have never heard of before because they're like, where are their legs? And Papa's like, they'll grow in later. And then we see turtles sunning themselves on a log. I guess after swimming around in cool water, they need to sun themselves to warm their bodies back up, I guess. They are cold-blooded animals. And we see a frog, which they don't even talk about. We also see some catfish in the pond. So it's a nice little ecosystem. Jeff Vandermeer would be proud. And then brother's like, whoa, what's that funny animal over there? What's that weird animal? What's that crazy creature? I've never seen anything that grotesque and profoundly upsetting in my entire life. And Papa's all, it's a beaver eating tree bark. And I'm like, hold the phone. Okay, you have literally had beavers as your neighbors. There was a whole book called The Berenstain Bears and the Busy Beavers. They were sentient creatures. They lived in a house. They were simply very productive. Papa was upset about them appearing in the house because they showed him up. And I guess the bears had to teach the beavers to relax. But if you remember, the beavers were people in bear country, which means that sometime between either then and now or at some point in the branching of the universes, the beavers stopped being sentient creatures once they were driven out of bear country. Because these are just plain old beavers. They're chopping down trees. They're building a dam. They're building their lodge. These are just beavers. They don't look like intelligent creatures. They are just beavers. Things I know about beavers, don't get near them. Beavers are very upsettable. And they will come at you with their giant teeth and sink their giant teeth into your body and hurt you very bad. Beavers can kill you because they are at important blood vessel height. So if they bite you, you could be in a lot of danger. There's also a picture of a chipmunk here, but no one cares about the chipmunk. Then they see something impossible, a family of deer. We see the buck, we see the doe, and we see their kids. And I'm like, we know from Bambi that father is nowhere near. Okay, why is the father just hanging out? Like, didn't we learn from Bambi that father deers don't hang out with mother deers and baby deers? Didn't we learn that? If I'm wrong, correct me. But if I'm right, I'm right. Do they hang out together? I didn't think they hung out together. I thought that the prince of the forest was all aloof. I thought he wasn't there to save his wife when she got shot by the hunter. I thought that's the way nature works. Who knows? Maybe they hang upside down by their tails. And then sister sees mice living in a log, And Mama says even the smallest are God's creatures. And Honey goes squeak, squeak, and everyone hugs and they go home. Even the smallest are God's creatures. A creature's a creature, no matter how small. Isn't that true? And we know, okay, and that's probably the most biblical thing that they say in this book. Even the smallest are God's creatures, which kind of goes back to that sparrow thing, right? Like sparrows are pretty common, but when one of them dies, God gets upset. I mean, he's probably pretty upset if he gets upset every time a sparrow dies. The guy's probably on his last leg at this point. He's probably just gnashing his teeth constantly because, I mean, I'm sorry, but more than one sparrow dies every few seconds. If you don't want to get that upset about your animals dying, make them live longer or just don't make them die, maybe. I mean, they didn't eat from the tree of life, did they? Maybe. I've never read a bird's Bible before. But that is the Berenstain Bears, All God's Creatures. It's pretty simple. It's straightforward. If you're collecting these books, then yes, get it. In fact, if you want to see some nice Mike animal drawings, then buy it. It's well illustrated, very colorful. Again, I'm a fan of almost all of Mike's religious books, especially the later ones. I don't know why. I like the way they look. I like his matter-of-fact attitude. I like the fact that he believes in being a steward of the earth. I like the fact that he believes that religion is something that you need to act on and not something you need to just sit and think about. It's not a reason to judge others. It is a reason to do good acts here on earth. Respect, 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 respect. Respect for all that. I believe that Mike Berenstain walks the talk and talks the walk and drinks a nice big glass of milk. But that's it. That's All God's Creatures. We'll be back with more of these weird little board books. One more board book and then one kind of soft book. That's in the same line, though. I don't know. I'm going to have to look at it. I'm going to have to figure this one out. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for listening. If you are in the Twin Cities area in the summer of 2023, I will be performing at the Minnesota Fringe Festival, which is like the first week and a half of August or so. I don't have the dates in front of me. I could have the dates in front of me. In fact, let me just get the dates in front of me. Minnesota Fringe Festival 2023. That's right. It's going to be it's going to be a big deal. I'm on their website. I can't find there it is. 8 full days of the Fringe Festival, August 3rd through the 13th. I have 5 performances on different days at different times of day. So if you're in the area, come on and see me. I'm going to be doing Lost in Bear Country, kind of a follow-up to Deep in Bear Country, but also its own thing. It's a lot busier. It's a lot more frantic. It's a lot more hectic. We'll see if it's a lot more fun. I don't know. I'm going to be having a good time. So even if you don't enjoy yourself, you can enjoy me enjoying myself. Thank you so much for listening. You can visit me at BerenstainBearcast.org. You can listen to my other shows. It's Del Toro Time that I did with Willow Petrowski. That's at WordPress.deltorotime.org.com. Or Pizza Toast, a YA books and media podcast that I do with Christy Admiral. And that is on, you can just find all my shows. Pizza Toast, It's Del Toro Time, Deep in Bear Country, wherever finer podcasts are broadcast. Otherwise, I guess I'll see you next week with another one of these books, and I'll see you all next time, deep in Bear Country.